Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Football Predictive Analytics with Rhys and very esteemed guest, Bob Harris, football diehard himself. How are you doing, Bob?
I thought you said I was very steamy. I'm saying, oh, it's nice here.
Esteemed. That's my Midwestern coming out.
I've heard that before. I've heard about the esteemed. I'm usually not associated with it, but I thank you for that. I'm here with the esteemed Rhys. That's what I was told.
I just carry the water. I just carry the water for him as much as I can. But it's great having you on.
Appreciate you asking.
So jumping straight into it, there's 5 major rookie quarterbacks coming out. They're all the first 15 in the draft in the first 15 picks of this past draft. What are your thoughts or opinions on all of them or any of them?
So I think, Trevor Lawrence is pretty much, what you expect, and the struggles that he's seen are pretty much what you'd expect associated with a team. It's got to be difficult coming from an environment where you haven't lost a game in 300 years. Okay, he's not 300 years old, but it probably seems like it. I mean, I don't know if he remembers the last game he lost until he got to Jacksonville. Has to be difficult. It's a harsh awakening. But I think they've kind of got what they expected from him. He looks fantastic to me, just, in terms of throwing the ball, running. I mean, he's big, mobile, all the things you want him to be. I hope they can build a team around him at some point that's worthy of his skill set. Have not been especially surprised by Mac Jones either. Once you realize he was going to get the opportunity, I think he's been exactly what you would expect, right? Like I don't want to say game manager seems like a pejorative, but it's really not. I'm not trying to put him down, but I think that's what the Patriots wanted, right? And I think they've got what they want. Once we get beyond that, Zach Wilson, welcome Mike White. I don't think, we'll see what happens. We're doing this just before the Thursday Night Football. I'm excited to see Mike White. I almost thought Rhys was Mike White for a second. They looked to be the same age. But in all seriousness, Zach Wilson was going to have, troubles growing pains, bringing that offense. There's some questions about Mike LaFleur's, play calling, et cetera. They bring in John Beck, who is basically Wilson's personal coach. And I think that's probably a smart move, right? And maybe help tweak the play calling. Also, let's hope that Zach Wilson is watching what Mike White does. There's something to be said for not every play going to be a home run, right? There's something. Right. Michael Carter would certainly agree. Yes, throw some short ones. Me. So I like that. And the 2 guys that we've been most interested in all along, I saved them for last because they're my favorites. They're coming. I feel bad for Justin Fields, right? It's hard to play football in the NFL for a team that doesn't have tackles. Offensive tackles are very important. They pass protect. They do a number of things. They also don't grow on trees. And once you run out of them, you aren't going down to the offensive tackle store and say, oh, I'll take a fresh order, because they're not there. They just don't exist. They need to get that rectified for him, and they will over time. I think we saw that 22-yard touchdown carry against San Francisco last week, the kind of electric player he can be. And I think he can throw the football. Honestly, I've seen him do it. I saw him. I don't even hardly watch any college football. But I saw him do that. And so, and I have it on good authority. Matt Waldman tells me as well that he can throw the football. So I'm looking forward to the day he's allowed to throw the football, and they kind of work this offense up, whether it's with this coaching staff or hopefully another. All right, hopefully. Yes, I don't have an investment in this, but other than I'd like to see Justin Fields succeed. This offense, in general has been a good offense for quarterbacks, right? So I don't want to just say it's not. Maybe it's just circumstances. Willing to sit and wait patiently. And that's what people should have done. I can remember people drafting both Fields and Trey Lance, the last one I'm talking about, way earlier than I would ever draft them in fantasy drafts, banking on the upside. You're not going to get that out of Justin Fields. You're just not this year, I don't think. I mean, maybe he can gain a little something with the rushing equity and turn into a glorified Jalen Hurts or, in terms of fantasy production. Trey Lance is, once he gets in as a starter, I think he would be a suitable play, right? They'll make use of his athleticism. They've had a plan all along if he's the guy they wanted. They also need to win. And they're built to win this year. They haven't been to the playoffs for a little while. It's not that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are on the hot seat, but they need wins. They need to get to the postseason. It's been too long. So if they're winning with Jimmy Garoppolo, they're going to keep winning with Jimmy Garoppolo, and we'll see those scattered showers of Trey Lance at times. would love to see the full version of him. We got hints of it at times. Love the big plays that we saw. Love the athleticism, running ability. So I think he will be everything he wants, but he's very young. He's like 2 years younger than Rhys right now, and he has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, Rhys had long locks all summer, and then came and said, "Hey, I want to come. It's too much effort." And so now he gets to wear ball hats. Hey,
now we just call me Justin Herbert. What can I say?
exactly. Hey, Bob, I had a question. You mentioned Jalen Hurts. So if we rank those 5, where would you put Jalen Hurts in there?
From a fantasy perspective, right at the top of the charts, right? He's fantastic. From an NFL perspective, I would be concerned. I don't think he's I think his grip on the starting job, seems tenuous at best because they're not winning. And also he's not necessarily the kind of quarterback that Nick Sirianni's offense demands. I don't know that Gardner Minshew is that either. Gardner Minshew at some point will come in and provide a spark at some moment, though, that will irritate the hell out of anyone who's invested in Jalen Hurts. Yes. And that would be the concern. From an NFL perspective, I just don't know that it's the proper match. And this is maybe just one of those situations where a pretty good player is going to get left out in the cold because of those circumstances. And that is part of the NFL. That's part of life is, things happen to you that are outside your control and you do the best you can. I think he is doing the best he can. He's not doing a lot to help the people I would like him to help.
Yeah.
You, Devontae Smith, I miss you, man. But that's the way it goes. It's, I do think that, at some point, if at any given point on a Sunday when I'm watching, if I hear that Jalen Hurts got yanked, I'm not going to be terribly surprised.
Yes. My thought is the guy who would fit Nick Sirianni's build for a quarterback is Carson Wentz, but they already traded him away.
Right.
But the other part about it is Philly has 3 first-round picks, all 3 presumably fairly high. But Minshew and Hurts are under contract cheaply next year. I say cheaply for starting quarterback stuff. And so there's this tension, Bob, I see coming, right? Because you have these 3 picks, you got to evaluate the 2 guys, because I don't see Philly trading Hurts. I mean,
Maybe to a team like the Broncos for like first rounders.
I just don't see them. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I'm told like the coming class of quarterbacks is not super high end,
right?
By the people who study those kind of things, not named Bob Harris, because I don't study them. But that is, look, there's always an issue here in the NFL. There are 32 teams, and there's about 17 guys capable of playing quarterback. And so there's going to always be that musical chairs kind of situation as teams scramble to find one of the guys who maybe isn't one of those 17. And I'm making that number up totally out of whole cloth, so don't hold me to that. But you know what I mean? There's a shortage of guys capable of playing at a high level. Look, if we're being honest, there's probably 5 to 10 that are capable of truly high level play, and having one of those is a huge advantage in the NFL. So everyone's scrambling to find them, and they'll circle around and do whatever they can. And, in the meantime, they have to make do. And I think Jalen Hurts is a great make do play. And he may be a guy that shuffles to another team. And look, players can be recycled. Alex Smith would like me to know that, what you are to start out with is not where you finish. And it's something we should remember about everything football related, right? Especially for fantasy purposes. I like to remind people often, if we were sitting here talking this time last year, we would be talking about Tom Brady not being able to complete a deep pass, right? He can't complete a pass over 20 yards. Then at the end of the season, the conversation would be, wow, he's the best deep ball passer in the NFL, right? That's the nature of the game. These things, there are evolutions. People get better at things, or circumstances change. The pieces around them move around. All these things, in turn, have an impact on the quarterback. Just like, for Justin Fields. I mean, I wish he had gone, or I wish he was playing with a more complete team and maybe a team with a better coach, or maybe a better play calling, whatever. So you look at what happens, let's say with Derek Carr, where the world is falling apart around him. And here he is, doing his job, getting it done. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. And so you wonder, hey, why isn't Justin Fields overcoming his circumstance? I think there are reasons for this that are outside the player's control, but some of this is, I think Derek Carr demonstrates, within a player's control.
Gotcha.
But Derek Carr has also had a lot more experience of dealing
True.
with things outside of his control.
Absolutely.
He's gone through
Antonio
probably
Brown
3
alone.
Yeah, with the Raiders. Well, look at his brother too. You know, his brother was the punching bag in Houston.
Still is.
But I would say, Bob, and then we can move on, is there's this intersection, this juxtaposition coming where we have the old quarterbacks being on their last leg, like Roethlisberger, right? Roethlisberger's gone. And you have a bad quarterback class historically by the pundits, so on and so forth, coming in. It's hard for me not to think that a guy like Minshew or Hurts would be starting. You know what I mean? Because there's some bad quarterback play in the NFL.
Sure. I mean, so, I mean, there is, but also, I mean, there's a lot of guys who I think probably could be playing better than guys that are playing that aren't. So, you know, circumstances are a big part of this. And I just think for these rookies, they all had a good spot. The thing about rookies right now is, to me, I don't know why you wait, right? I'm not sure what the point is waiting. The Seattle, showed you the direction this went when they put Russell Wilson in right away, right?
Yep.
And you realize, oh, look at all the money I can spend on other pieces while I have this quarterback on his rookie contract. And at some point, you're going to have to pay the piper. But until you do, it's a premium land. If you have a competitive team and you can get something out of these young quarterbacks, you're going to make hay because you're going to be able to build some really great pieces around them because you're going to have the money to do it.
Awesome thought.
But you look at a lot of the past Super Bowl winners of the salary cap era. Patriots. Brady was either on a rookie deal or team friendly deal.
Or playing cheap. Yep.
Wilson, rookie deal. Roethlisberger, rookie deal. Eli Manning was still on his rookie deal for one of the Giants Super Bowls. Peyton Manning, he was not on a rookie deal. Foles was cheap-ish just because he was coming off that bad. There's a lot of most of the Super Bowl teams that you see nowadays are coming with young, strong quarterbacks.
Even Mahomes. Mahomes was on his rookie deal when they won, right?
Yes.
And so Rhys brings it. Bob, he keeps me around, not for my good looks, but he's the one, that remembers all these Super Bowl winners. Because you think about, I think the quarterback carousel is going to keep spinning. Is Jameis going to be in New Orleans next year? Probably not.
No.
And you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, first of all, Rhys is still on his rookie deal, and the next contract's going to include a really nice car, I'm told.
Oh,
so
don't drive it up. Don't drive up the price on me, Bob.
I will negotiate all day.
2 plates of nachos and you got a deal.
Ah!
Yeah. You guys were just talking about Jameis. Where are the Saints' playoff chances with Jameis now out for the year?
I don't know. Taysom Hill wasn't horrible. They won games with him last year. It would not surprise me if they cobbled something together. They play good enough defense. They have Alvin Kamara. They don't have Michael Thomas, apparently well. So there's that. But I think they can cobble something together because, if you play good defense, I think they can make the playoffs. I don't think they can go deep into the playoffs. That's the issue for me. And we'll see. Maybe Taysom Hill evolves a little bit and figures out how to throw to Alvin Kamara. Wouldn't that be great? You might not have a choice, right? There's not a lot of, truly high-end pieces. There's certainly not the Michael Thomas piece. So, and that was the piece he connected with last season. So maybe he'll be forced to evolve. But he's not a great quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, but he completed 70% of his passes. They won their games. Let's throw the one out where he was playing against old Hinton in Denver, the weirdo game. But every other game, I thought he acquitted himself reasonably well. There were some bad plays. Guess what? I watched the Saints all this season. Jameis Winston makes some of those too. So I think they're good. They're fortunate to have a coach like Sean Payton, who has seen a lot of things, has been able to adjust, is a sharp football mind with a ton of experience. And I think they'll cobble it together and push it into the postseason and then fall short when they get to the promised land.
You mentioned that the Hinton game, but he'll also play 2 games against the Falcons too.
Yeah, it helps.
So those are 3 almost gimme wins. We really haven't seen that much out of Taysom Hill against a real football
it's
defense
true.
or offense.
And they're at a disadvantage against the Buccaneers, who are stout against the run and not as stout against the pass.
But
I mean, Khalil Herbert says, nah, they're okay. I mean, that was going back to the Bears. They can't do anything for us, so they didn't have a choice. But yeah, no, that's a fact. But I wonder if he can get something done with Alvin Kamara in that game. I think, bringing in Mark Ingram kind of gives them some flexibility to move Kamara outside or run him out of the slot a lot more. How about those backs on the field? So that'll be helpful.
Yes. But the one thing that does help the Saints is that Winston had them at a 6-2 record. They'll probably need to win another 5 games, 5 out of the remaining 9 to make the postseason and get a decent playoff spot.
And the NFC's top heavy. The middle of the NFC is weak.
Wait, I didn't say a decent playoff spot. I just said a playoff spot.
No point there.
Much love, Bob.
Yes, but there's like 5 or 6 NFC teams with at least 6 wins.
Yeah.
So and the rest have like 1 or something.
It's called parity. The NFL loves that. It's designed to have that.
Yeah, especially on the, if they didn't think they had parity, Bob, they wouldn't be throwing Jets Colts at us on a Thursday night. You know what I mean?
Yep. Looking to get some exciting players. And, I want to say, we talked about Carson Wentz. He's turning back into Carson Wentz. It's nice to see. I kind of invested in him from a fantasy perspective because he was pretty cheap. Love free square players. Yeah. Guys are getting late that might emerge as something. I'm not saying, he's going to turn back into the MVP chats. It's going to start. He's got a great offensive line, strong rushing attack, and he's making some chunk plays to a big-bodied receiver who has the physical ability to dominate at the point of the catch, right? So all these things are working in his favor, and we're seeing some chunk plays. I've kind of been happy to see it happen. Much maligned has been this Carson Wentz.
I agree.
It almost sounded like you described the 2017 Eagles.
Yes, exactly.
Great offensive line, big body receiver, and Alshon Jeffrey, good rushing attack, good defense.
But it is good. Bob, you bring up something. We do not in this world hear enough about redemption stories. We judge people too harshly too early. We don't let them outgrow it. You know what I'm saying? Like
so you're preaching to a choir of one here. Also my categories. He's nodding gently. This is the truth, right? We look at things the way we first see them, right? Yeah. Like, there's people out there who still think Baltimore is a really good defense, right? Well, because I remember when Baltimore was really good. They're always really good. No, it changes, right? That's part of the design of the NFL as well. And so, the players that, more like look no further than running back position in fantasy, where dating back to when I started playing, there's been a running back every year that wins somebody a fantasy title that nobody drafted, right?
Right.
Nick Goings, Reuben Drones. I'm taking you back in the Wayback Machine. Mike Anderson. And we can roll all the way through into recent years as well. Because it's just, that's a position where opportunities happen. And, we can see this in let's look at the Chiefs. I remember when the Chiefs were good, right? They were the juggernaut of an offense. They played good defense. All of a sudden, they are playing neither of those things. And that's what we need to keep in mind, that nothing is static. Things change. Players evolve. They get better. They get hurt. They recover. All these things, some of the talk about Derrick Henry, he's bound to get hurt. No, he wasn't bound to get hurt. I mean, he had more opportunities to get hurt, but did he have more opportunities to get hurt than an offensive lineman who's on the field for 100% of every snap? I mean, is he really working that much harder? He's not taking the kind of hits they're taking every play. He just broke his foot, right? It's not because of his workload, although it is a factor. But we look at these things and we try to bring it down to this, easy one consumable stuff. Overworked. Of course, he was injury prone. Or Christian McCaffrey's now injury prone. The guy with 2 injuries to his name over the course of time. I mean, okay, sure, if that's what you want to say, that's maybe kind of lazy analysis to me. Right. It's maybe, maybe you should look past that. It's why I go into every fantasy season as an injury agnostic, right? Because I understand it's a collision sport, right? Somebody's going to get hurt every play. Yeah. I watch games and I see guys running off, looking at some part of their body. That hurt. We just don't realize the toll this game takes on every single player. And we focus on a narrow band of players who certainly, being a running back in the NFL, if you're Derrick Henry, you're getting in 20 plus car collisions every week. In this case, though, he's a truck colliding with cars. I think he had the advantage in that. Look, even at wide receivers, and I talk about this a lot, the physics of the game. We saw it with CeeDee Lamb, or was it Justin Jefferson jumping up for the ball, right? And coming down on his butt hard. Why? Because he's like 6 feet tall and weighs 200 pounds. And, your body is not, you can get bigger, you can work out, you can get faster, you can do all these things. Your joints are still only designed to take certain amounts of torque and forces. And, and there's things like acceleration and mass and all these that equal velocity. All these things are increasing, but the skeletal portions of the body are not. So all these things are factors in all this. And I've gone totally off the beaten path here with you, and you're welcome for that. But these are the kind of things that we need to realize about players is they're, the situations, the circumstances change for every single player, every single week. That's part of the design as well, is it's a different game plan. It's a different opponent. It's a different week of preparation. All these things change. So be prepared to change with it. Don't be stuck in your little mindset, people.
Agreed.
You mentioned the Chiefs. What do you think's wrong with them? I mean, they used to be good. Now they're not.
They can't play defense. That's not good, right? And I'm not an expert on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not an expert on the offensive side of the ball. I'm an expert in fantasy football, and an X is it has been in spurts of grip under pressure. So I don't know if that's helpful either. But the defense is not getting the job done. And to me, when I watch Patrick Mahomes, he seems like he's pressing. I also wonder if he's really, where he was physically, with the foot, the toe issue and everything. I mean, some of these things take time to get over. And as somebody who suffered a turf toe at 18 years old while wrestling and still suffers from that injury, right? It'll be with me forever. You wonder if some of these things don't take a little bit of a toll physically, and maybe he's not quite the same player. And then I see him make one of those crazy off-platform throws, and I go, he's that player. He's just pressing, right? And that's what it looks like to me offensively. Those 10 interceptions. I feel like he's pressing at times. They're not all his fault, right? I get that, but he seems to be the problem with the offense right now. And maybe they need to put some better pieces around him. They have a handful of really good ones. By handful, I mean 2. But there's enough other reasonable pieces around him that he's been able to excel in the past. I think this is probably a temporary thing. And if we redo this show in week 15, we might be having a totally different conversation.
We'll schedule you for then. But the one thing about it is he's thrown the most touchdowns while targeting Kelsey, in my eyes, which are very unmedically trained eyes. Kelsey looks hurt to me. He doesn't look like he's moving with the same smoothness that we've expect. Could it be old age?
As
Sure.
old people, I would say that it might be kind of,
You know what I'm saying, though, but
I know.
no, it's true.
Rhys at 15 doesn't. He's like, what do you mean? But it happens. Hey, there's one thing that's true about every professional athlete and Bob and I. Father Time is undefeated.
Till that's
It is.
Tom Brady.
And so it's been 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons. I look at Kelsey right now. Last week was horrible. He had some drops. He's been dealing with a little bit of that neck issue. We don't know how serious that is. I don't know if it's, serious at all. Maybe it's just, in our mind because he's not playing up to snuff. But it's been one touchdown over, since week 3 or something ridiculous like that. 100-yard games have been few and far between. I think he had a 100-yard game. He had a 99-yard game. And beyond that, it's been pretty pedestrian, and pedestrian is not what we want. He also isn't getting passes in the end zone.
Right.
I don't think he's been targeted any times in the end zone this year. He needs to change that, please.
Oh, yes. But another problem is that they're not getting Hill involved in games that they're behind. I was researching Tyreek Hill, and the last time he caught a touchdown in a Chiefs loss was 2019, week 10 against the Titans. And they just don't get him involved when they're not winning games. They're not getting him involved, which seems messed up.
He seems mercurial though, right? I mean, like he will, he's not a consistent not a consistent threat there, right? He'll show up and you never know. I mean, it's from a fantasy perspective, the highs are so high, you don't care about the low weeks. From an NFL perspective, I wonder if it wouldn't be better if you had a more consistently, maybe less super high end, but a guy that could, get the job done week in, week out. He just seems to disappear at critical times, like you said. So yeah, I'm with you.
The other side of that, I'm going to play the other side of what Rhys just said. Maybe teams know, hey, we stopped Tyreek Hill from scoring, the causation correlation conversation. We stop him, we have a better chance of of winning. But to Rhys's point on the other side is if I'm the Chiefs and I'm down a touchdown, there are a few more potentially explosive plays than a screen to Tyreek Hill, right?
It's true.
I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't throw a screen pass after, all those jet sweeps, everything to him as much as possible, especially if you're down.
I would agree.
Oh yeah, but even again, even in the first Buccaneers game last year, he got, I think it was 3 touchdowns in the first half and had nearly 200 yards in the first quarter.
Oh yeah.
They won that game easily after that.
Oh, it's easy when it's easy from there.
Oh yeah, that is true. So one of the biggest news stories from the past week has been the trade deadline. And the biggest trade was probably the Von Miller trade, where my Broncos decided to trade one of the best players in our history for day 2 picks, but that's a different story. But are the Rams now Super Bowl favorites with Von Miller adding to that already loaded defense?
I think they kind of already were, in that territory. This certainly doesn't hurt them at all, right? I mean, look, it's a great all-in play. For a team that's not going to have a draft pick for another, 20 years until you're like 30-something, they're going to be fine this year. And that's the thing. They went all in, right? And so, I've been critical of Sean McVay and management for their mishandling of the quarterback situation. They overpaid for Jared Goff in draft capital. Then they overpaid him on a contract. Then they overpaid to get rid of him. Yes. And then they overpaid for Matthew Stafford. I yanked McVay's genius card. Sorry. He's winning it back now, though. Look, once you get the right players, things magically happen that are great. And, we know he's a good coach. And we see what Matthew Stafford is capable of. I think, and look, Darrell Henderson, we can go back a couple of years. And I keep thinking about an article I read, our friend Doug Farrar with USA Today. Did a really great article where he sat down with Henderson and they did a film study of what the Rams offense does and how good a fit he can be. And it's something, I've talked about with Mike Clay about, we get our hopes up for rookie running backs because it's a position where rookies can excel. But really, they most often don't really get it that first year. It takes a year, maybe into second year. Henderson gets it now. You can see him, right? And, it's taken a while and maybe he's not the desired play, but he's figured it out, right, for them. And we'll see how that goes going forward. We know Cam Akers will be back soon, or at least maybe postseason. But I just think this offense has come together and the defense was already there. And now that the offense matches the defense, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with all the way up through the Super Bowl. And the fact that they have an opportunity to play at home will only spur them that much further. I don't know that they need much spurring. Von Miller will sit there and put the riding crop to them.
Yeah, but at least they get to use him in high leverage situations.
Right.
So 2 questions for you, very loaded questions, Bob. Next year, is Akers or Henderson? Which one's going to get the greater than 50% of the touches?
I'm going to guess Akers and readily admit I have no idea. But I think that would be the plan. That kind of felt like their plan going in. And look, Akers seems like he's up for it, right? If he's on the field, he looks really good. And it's easy to look at the thing we're seeing now and think, wow, Darrell Henderson looks great. Maybe we're not even realizing how great Cam Akers could be doing given the same workload and the same circumstances. So I'm open to Cam Akers returning to form, and so are my dynasty shares.
No, I'm with you. One follow-up, since we're heavy on the Rams, what do you think their chances are against the Buccaneers? Let's say they both make it to the NFC Championship.
I think they have a great chance. I think they have. Look, I think they can play with anyone any week, right? With that defense, look, when I think about defense, I want to see disruptive playmakers. They have them at every level. They just added another one. Yeah. These are the kind of things. These are the kind of players that they have that change games, right? Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, Von Miller. Now, I mean, these are game-changing players any given week, and you already have that on offense in Cooper Kupp. I think Matthew Stafford working with these kind of players could do that as well. So they can play with anybody, in my estimation.
Yeah. Well, the Cardinals are the only team that beat him, and they beat him pretty soundly there. So I'd be worried about them, and I'd also be kind of worried about the Packers. As long as they don't play them in the NFC Championship game, then the Rams got it easy. But the Packers do have arguably one of the best tackles in the league, and
he'll be back.
Bakhtiari, yes.
Yep, he'll be back. He's close. Very close.
So they'll have him. Elton
Yeah.
Jenkins was a Pro Bowl guard, and he also did fairly well against Donald in the playoff game.
I agree. And maybe you guys have noticed the subtle change they've been making to going a little run heavier. They didn't do it every week, but they didn't do it against Washington, but they had done it the weeks leading up to that. We're seeing more of A.J. Dillon, just a more concerted effort to run the ball, looks like to me, as they set themselves up, for maybe a little bit of a postseason run here. I'm excited to see where it goes and when all the pieces are back together, because they're not going to be back together this
Oh, yeah.
But on the Packers, where does Rodgers or Adams end up at the end of the year, or at this time next year?
At this time next year, man, I honestly that it's a beautiful mystery. I think that's the answer that I've heard before. If I was a betting man, I mean, Denver's going to go all in if they can get Aaron Rodgers, but I guess they won't be alone. So we'll just have to see. I don't want to, I mean, here's the thing that, I've got to this point where I say nothing would surprise me, and it still does, but I pretend it doesn't, because just things happen in the NFL that I have no idea. So when we were going into the season, when we first heard, on draft day that Aaron Rodgers and I would want to play, I said it's 90-10 that Aaron Rodgers is playing for the Packers. I would say it's 70-30 that he's a Denver Bronco next year. I said the season got underway, or before the season got underway, it was 10-90 that we'll ever see Deshaun Watson play this year. I'm going to take that to 99 and 199 right now that we'll see him play this year. I mean, we have all these outcomes in our head of things, and really, we go back to the Occam's razor type situation. Really, in the end, the simplest answer is the most logical one. I mean, Deshaun Watson, for example, didn't want to play for Houston. The off-field troubles made it, in my mind, impossible for anyone to trade for him, or certainly added a degree of difficulty that I didn't know if anyone was going to want to thread that needle. And it turns out that was a big issue. And on the Rodgers side, I mean, it just didn't make sense. I mean, who's going to land a quarterback at that point in time? Even a great quarterback could expect these huge changes. And so, I think, given time and people can plot things out, I think we'll see a different outcome. Adams is going to play somewhere else, I think, too. Go back and play with Derek Carr.
Yeah. Especially with all the stuff that's happened this week. But another potential outcome or, destination for Rodgers, I think, would be Pittsburgh. I could, if Ben packs it in, I could see Rodgers in the Steel City.
It doesn't seem like a Steelers move to me.
I'm with you. But how many rookies have they flopped on? I mean, they're great at drafting receivers, horrible at drafting quarterbacks outside of Bradshaw and Roethlisberger.
Did I mention nothing would surprise me? That would surprise me a little bit. I mean, honestly, that would surprise me a little bit. I mean, but I do think we see quarterbacks looking to force their way into other situations that they see as more beneficial, because look what happened when Tom Brady did it, right?
Yes.
Went pretty well for him, went pretty well for the team. Well, teams are looking at this too, not just quarterbacks. Teams are going, well, hell, man, why don't we do that? Why don't we get a really great quarterback and help him win us a Super Bowl? I think you're going to see more of that. I think teams are going to be a little more open, and you're going to see, who is going to do something like this is David Tepper.
Yeah.
God bless you, Rhys.
He was trying to hold it in, and he just couldn't hold the sneeze in.
Like David Tepper is a guy who made $1 billion not by being safe, right? Not by taking. He took risks, took huge chances. I think that's why probably they were maybe a little bit more in the running for Deshaun Watson than a lot of us realize. He said, "Hey, I'm in a league that's designed to be 8-8 at the time, and I don't want to be an 8-8 person. I'm not that guy."
Right.
And so if somebody was going to do something off the wall, unexpected, he would be a guy that would do that. And look, don't put anything past Stephen Ross either. He's getting old. And, when you start getting old, I can speak from experience, personal experience. You're willing to do things you might not have done before to get the things you want.
Yeah, I'm with you, especially because there's desperation, right?
Right. Old people are desperate, Rhys.
My thought would be the teams that were interested in Watson clearly do need or want a quarterback upgrade. So why aren't they being discussed with Rodgers? And teams like the Eagles, the Panthers, the Dolphins.
There's 10 years age difference.
Still.
There's 10 years age difference. And that is a big deal.
Yeah. But if he's going to be a free agent and you think you have a good enough team to try to compete for a Super Bowl.
How many years does Rodgers have? 2?
According to Tom Brady, he has like 10.
Yeah, but I think Rodgers, I could just see Rodgers giving everybody the finger and walking off. You know what I mean? Like Brady didn't have that kind of, he has a little different build to him, but you could see Rodgers just getting enough and just saying, "You guys keep it. I'm off to do."
Well,
Jeopardy."
as I'm sitting here, you see me glancing at my phone constantly because stories are coming through and past my nose. I see one that is talking about how angry he is about the whole way the story is playing out with him right now.
Yeah.
You know, these are the kind of things that maybe make someone say, "Look, it's not really worth it. I've got all my money. I don't know if I want to be the subject of this level of ridicule and criticism over some personal decision, and maybe I just pack my bag and go live in Aspen with my young bride to be."
Yep, and that's his choice. I mean, we talk about being old, Bob. I'm just of that. I just want everybody to be happy. If that makes him happy, go do it. You know what I mean?
I'm much more cynical. Nobody's happy. They're all just pretending.
Well, thank you for giving us all like inspiration.
Oh yeah. So speaking of we were talking about Deshaun Watson and how he could have been traded. What trade should have happened that didn't?
Marlon Mack should have gone somewhere.
Yes.
I mean, he asked for it. They said they would grant him. I wonder if it's just not that there was teams in the division that were mostly interested. It seems like an Odell Beckham trade should have happened, would have been in Cleveland's best interest to get something while they could get something. And now it appears they're just going to move on and he's going to be able to sign with whoever the hell he wants, right? So, I mean, if that's the case, what was the point of not trading him? You at least had some level of control. That trade probably should have happened. Beyond that, I mean, you know, some of the ones that were talked about were kind of lower level trades with Devontae Parker, Evan Ingram, Darius Slayton, guys like that. They didn't need to go anywhere. I mean, they're fine where they are. They're fine in a new place. They're, you know, I would have liked to see, you know, I would have liked to see something good happen for Deshaun Watson in football terms. But look, some, you know, decisions that were made by him fouled that up, right? I mean, I can't, I can't sit here and, you know, say, oh, wow, I wish he had a better outcome when he's not trying to be part of the better outcome. So, you know, Houston seems like not a great place that players want to play right now. So it would be great to see him move on and see them get a chance to rebuild with somebody that's more interested in being there. But we'll revisit that after the season.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, one of the things that I would have said that the Saints knew the state of Michael Thomas's recovery at the time. They should have added some receiver depth. That would be my only.
Yeah, they were in talks for Beckham, and you just couldn't make the money work. The Saints have no money, so they weren't going to be able to take anyone's big contract short of that big contract person being willing to make it a little contract. I'm not sure Odell Beckham is that guy.
Unless it's some deal like what the Rams and Broncos did where the Broncos ate all the money. And
Right. And so I don't, and maybe Cleveland should have done that deal. Maybe that would have been a smart deal for them to make because obviously they're not going to come out of this great either way.
No.
I agree, but I also not been surprised if they had tried to swing at Michael Thomas for Odell Beckham trade.
Ooh, I don't know. I think that's the whole thing with Odell Beckham. I was watching a report today. You probably saw it too, Bob, as most of the players think he's a distraction. Those are my words. Like they just want him to shut up and show up, and like he could have told his dad, hey, take down that post, or he could have, what I mean? There's a lot of things that he could have done. And it's almost like
I feel like the distraction thing is huge for everybody involved, right? And it's the circus is great, but it comes with clown cars, right? And you got to be ready for the clown car portion of this whole show if you're going to bring the circus to town. And that's that's what derailed guys like Tim Tebow and Colin Kaepernick to me is not whatever you think of their ability to get the job done on the field, the things that came with them off the field are the things that people wanted to avoid. And I mean, I'm sure I'll take criticism for making this simple observation that comes from years and years of experience. Football coaches like to focus on football. That's all. They don't want to sit there and talk about anything not having to do with football. And so when you bring in a player that's going to be, whether it's an Odell Beckham, whoever it is, I mean, what you're going to be spending all your time talking about. And we've seen teams manage it reasonably well at times, but I mean, Terrell Owens, go back to the Eagles with Terrell Owens. And I mean, and Michael Vick, when they brought him in, the distraction that went with that. And it takes a special group of people to deal with that level of distraction successfully. And it's not easy.
And the Steelers were able to do it with Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown very well for a couple years, at least, that we knew about it.
But the media goes like this. I mean, the media, their job is to keep it a story. So they go, hey, coach, what do you think about him not being here? Hey, coach, what do you think about this?
Look, and that's what, they do that for a reason as well, right? Because they're rewarded for it. So, whatever that's the point, though. It's the distraction that comes with it, because those questions are part and parcel of acquiring a certain player or bringing, putting yourself in a certain situation. So, it's just, one of the things, just reminds me of just, we were talking about Derek Carr, just watching his handling of the two huge stories that have happened there, right? I mean, he's handled those really well. It's been impressive, like showing a lot of maturity and, there's something to be said for answering the question and getting it off your damn plate. He seems to have done a pretty good job of that. That doesn't mean the questions will stop, but he can always say, "Oh, I answered that pretty well," and go away, right? So that's part of it to me. Is there's some of these things like even Tennessee. You bring in Adrian Peterson, he's going to draw a crowd, right? Everyone's going to be super interested. I don't know if they need to be. Or let's look at Josh Gordon, as well. I mean, you bring in a player like that. Granted, maybe it's been far enough removed from all the issues. It's been pretty quiet in Kansas City. But, that when you bring a player like this on board, that's part of what's going to come with it is that level of attention, and you have to be prepared for it.
Oh, yeah. You got something?
Yeah, all I was going to say on that is, for me, when I think about that whole situation, Carr's answer was a yesterday or today, where he says, I love the guy. The guy needs more love in his life. He's got a young daughter and so on and so forth. He needs more love. And, for him to be willing to say, I'll be that friend to him was awesome. And, and I liked his response about Gruden. But for I couldn't imagine they're putting so much on his plate. Nobody's asking Mark Davis about this. They're asking, Carr.
He's harder to find.
Huh?
He's harder to find.
Right. But there's no coach visibly. The owner's not up there. So Carr's up there taking.
Rich Biasasha came out and was gave pretty good answers on Ruggs, I thought, yesterday as well. So I've heard nothing but great things about him. And when I saw his press conference yesterday morning, I thought he handled the questions extremely well and was very impressed with his demeanor and his handling of the subject matter.
Yes. Well, I think we can all agree the best answer to the John Gruden question was Brandon Staley saying, "We just need to love everyone."
Oh yeah. I love Staley this year. I think it's been great being able to hear some of his very thoughtful answers.
Yeah, I think, look, I like the direction. I like the direction some of these young coaches, the NFL has been in recycling, a bunch of guys who were successful or not so successful or whatever. And we're seeing a lot of young coaches come up who are doing things a little differently and behaving a little differently. So hopefully that has an impact on the league as a whole.
Oh yeah, transparency is always great. Bob, Mr. Diehard himself, thank you for joining us as we talk football this Thursday afternoon. And
just noticing I'm extremely well lit. I hope that goes well for you, hiding myself.
Hey, I'm going to already, you said week 15. I'm going to put you down, pencil you in, week 15.
Locked in.
Done deal.
Good.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Bye.
Good talking to you, Rhys. Good talking to you, Jeff. Appreciate
Thank
you asking
you.
me on. We'll talk again soon.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Bye.